in the newspapers?
Well, front page it is a Japa.
Mesa or a Japa?
It is a Japa royalties. Front page of the Daily Graphic. Finally, it has come. A Japa royalties goes public. Okay. Listing on Ghana London Stock Exchanges by December. APC acclaims Hassan Ayariga flag bearer. TUC petitions president over SNIT lump sum payment. And on one hot meal a day, Chief of Staff advises students to focus on studies.
There's a photo of the group CEO for Goil Ghana, Kwame Osei-Prempeh, on the front page of the Finder. And it's good news. Goil records 105.5 million Ghana Cedi profit after tax in 2019. A Japan royalties beneficial. It will not add to debt burden. Government gets lump sum regular dividends. This is according to Edu Boateng. 10,000 entrepreneurs seek NEIP's funding in 5 coastal belt regions. We take our manifesto promises seriously. This is Kojo Ponkroma. And TUC wants the government to revise low lump sum benefits of pensioners.
The front page of the Daily Guide, pressure on NDC to launch manifesto, comes with a photo of the former president John Dramani Mahama. Nana targets first round NPP majority. Police study killer fetish priest calls and chats.
Former President Mahama says that he will cancel a Japa royalties deal if he is elected president. This is on the front page of the New Crusading Guide. Junior high school students gets free food as government rolls out policy. Elembene benefits from community mining, and former UCC Vice Chancellor fingered in huge procurement breaches.
Front page of the Daily Statesman, Akufo-Addo's policies are life-changing. Information Minister says NPP takes manifesto promises serious, and Mahama dodges voter journalist over Ahoy's book.
As we get into the elections, there's something which is coming up. So the Finder has a story on that. The Ghanaian Times leads with that. Labour unrest looms as TUC laments unfairness in implementation of the 3-tier pension scheme. Hassan Ayariga to lead APC to December 2020 polls. Government rolls out 1 hot meal a day program for schools, and NDC challenges NPP to debate over achievements in government.
The front page of the ABC News, President Godfred rates NPP performance 70%. Cape Coast is also in focus. Newport Airport for Cape Coast. Kojo Yanka supports move, and time to harness tourism in Cape Coast now.
The Chronicle, cheaper power for industries in next NPP government. Our 2020 manifesto feasible upon Chroma. 26 of NPP projects do not exist, and spare parts dealers kick against ban on importation of salvaged cars.
Front page of the BNFT says, as more companies go solar, Energy Ministry worries about ECG's viability. Finally, an initiative to create an opportunity for wealth creation, and this is an opinion piece on the Japa royalties deal.
If you go online, citinewsroom.com, and Baumia must apologize for lying about cost of Nkrumah interchanges is NDC. Also, Sami Jemfi says reject MPP's 419 manifesto promises. But Gideon Boakun says purported ghost project may be due to data input errors. Meanwhile, CPP says we'll begin aggressive grassroots campaign to win 2020 poll. And MPP's approach to resolving legal education challenge myopic. This is Kweku Azan. Other stories. Kwame Naho is working with Rawlings. Martin Amidu's critique number 2. And enforce Rent Control Act and save money. Dumelo to NPP. MyJournline.com. Lots of talk about the Cape Coast Airport. Citing airport in Cape Coast not viable, aviation expert reacts to MPP manifesto promise. Also, Cape Coast does not need an airport now, runs for Jampo. And NPP's Cape Coast manifesto promise doesn't make economic sense. UGBS lecturer. So, 3 stories on one airport. Meanwhile, Akufo-Addo government responsible for diminishing interest in voting according to Mahama. And Baumia lied. Akufo-Addo can only put his name to Tamale Interchange, not 5 projects. This is Kwachio for Spa FM. Baumia made airport promise on the spur of the moment, according to Nana Obri Boahin. Meanwhile, murder of 64-year-old biochemistry traditional priest caged again. And Nayariga vows to fight corruption in acclamation speech. CityBusinessNews.com. Other stories there. Safe tour from collapse. COPEC urges government. Also, SMEs to pay taxes online. Next MPP government Baumia pledges. And Deloitte Partners, African Association of Automotive Manufacturers, to host first AAF. GNA is leading with feeding. Government rolls out feeding of JHS final year students. Also, 2020 elections. Our Sawasi NDC MPP signed MOU to commit to peace. And State honors war veteran Joseph Hammond. All right, Godfred, let's start with you.
Okay, let's do a Japa royalties. Front page of the Daily Graphic, story by Samuel Do Ablodepe. The Minerals Income Investment Fund is racing to float shares of its special purpose vehicle on the Ghana and the London Stock Exchanges before the end of the year. The main subsidiary of the MIIF and holding company, Japa Royalties Investment Limited, will be listed on the London Stock Exchange, while its subsidiary, ARG Royalties Limited, will be quoted on the Ghana Stock Exchange, both through initial public offers. A Deputy Minister of Finance, Mr. Charles Boateng, disclosed this to the Daily Graphic in an interview at Pedrasi near Ebri in the Eastern Region last Saturday. Supported by the Chief Executive Officer of the MMIF and former Member of Parliament for Kumeru, Mr. Yalba, Mr. Boateng said the government came up with the idea of leveraging the mineral royalties of the country in order to maximize the value from the resources and not allow it to drown in the consolidated fund without tracing what it had been used to do. So a bit of background on this. The government passed the Minerals Income Investment Fund Act 978 with the key objective of maximizing the country's mineral wealth for the benefit of Ghanaians while ensuring that receiving royalties from gold mining companies is sustainable. So how this works is that the SPV, incorporated as a private institution independent of government control, will receive royalties due the state to capitalize the company. It will then float up to 49% on the London Stock Exchange to be in the business of financing mining infrastructure and assets in Ghana and across the world. Also, apparently Ghanaians can own shares. On whether ordinary Ghanaians could buy shares of the companies, Mr. Yalba says that yes, Ghanaians could buy shares of the companies. It was essential the rationale for the dual listing, especially for listing on the Ghanaian board. So
this is graphics lead story. I think Finder also leads with it, right?
Finder also leads with it. Similar breakdown. Opportune time to high gold prices. Mr. Boateng says that the structure would allow the government to raise funds at an opportune time given the current price of gold. He also said that Ghanaians can buy shares and that in the end the government of Ghana through the MIIF will hold at least 51% of the shares. Now, he says to meet the requirements of ensuring proper value for us, the highest corporate governance standards would be adhered to. And he said some other things about Ejapa.
All right, we'll delve into this during the show later on.
About Ejapa.
Talk to me. Yeah.
It's in the new Crusading Guide. He says he will cancel Ejapa if he's elected president. Now, the story says the flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress, John Dramani Mahama, says he will not accept the Ejapa royalties mineral agreement if he is elected president. According to the former president, the deal looks shady and his government will not respect it. In an interview on TV XYZ, John Mahama said the government is better off assigning the royalties to the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund rather than Ejapa royalties, which he said has been registered in a tax haven. Parliament recently approved 5 agreements to create a special purpose vehicle in fulfillment of this particular Mineral Income Investment Fund amendment, and he says he will cancel it if he becomes president.
All right, back to Godfred.
Yes, quite a lot happening in the political space this week, Bernard. But let me give you one quick story, and then we can do some politics. TUC petitions president over SNIT lump sum payment. The Trades Union Congress has petitioned the president to intervene to ensure that the pension lump sums paid to people retiring from this year are commensurate with their contributions over the years. Data gathered by the union and an analysis of them showed another anomaly, which is that the lump sum benefits of those retiring in 2020 were low compared to what they would have received under PNDC Law 247. Now, signed by the Secretary General of the TUC, Dr. Yalba, the petition also called on the president to revise the policy to exclude the security services from the unification of pensions under the 3-tier pension scheme, saying the policy defeated the principle of solidarity in the scheme. Now, to the politics, Bernard, on the same page, APC acclaims Hassan Ayariga, flag bearer, founder and leader of the All People's Congress. Mr. Hassan Ayariga has been elected by popular acclamation as the flag bearer of the party for the December 7 presidential poll. Now, in his acceptance speech, Mr. Ayariga said he was in politics due to the plethora of challenges facing Ghanaians as a result of what he described as bad governance by the Akufo-Addo administration. And a lot of criticism has also come through on the MPP manifesto.
Yes, there's a lot of stories about the Cape Coast Airport and other promises. I think that it's getting a lot of attention. So, for example, a political scientist is saying the MPP's 2-year period set for repayment of no guarantor student loan is not feasible. according to a political scientist interviewed on My Joy Online. Then about 3 different people have been interviewed on the Cape Coast Airport with all kinds of views.
A historian who has lived in Cape Coast all his life is also making a strong case for
the airport.
Cape Coast.
Okay, let me give you some flavor of the headline. So the first one, senior lecturer, University of Ghana's Political Science Department, says the 2-year period set for repayment of the no guarantor student loan proposed by the MPP government is not feasible. Dr. Isaac Mensah said, not everyone who completes his or tertiary education immediately finds a job. Therefore, many beneficiaries of the loan might not be able to raise enough money to pay for the loan within the given 2-year period. Then there are 2 other stories here. Cape Coast does not need an airport now, runs for Jampo, story by Jesse Ola Morris. It says, an associate professor of political science, University of Ghana, says constructing an airport does not fulfill a major need of people of Cape Coast. Professor Jampo said there are more important developmental projects that can be constructed to boost economic development in the region. Therefore, building an airport now is not something that should be given much attention. That's story number 2. Story number 3, citing an airport in Cape Coast not viable, aviation expert reacts to MPP manifesto promise. Story by Kenneth Awotwi Darko. An aviation expert, Dr. Yakubu Akbaribo, has outlined a plethora of reasons why the construction of an airport in Cape Coast will not be a viable option for the country as of now. According to the aerospace medicine physician, most of the conditions that will serve as a basis for the siting of such a facility in the central region are non-existent. This comes on the back of the promise by the MPP. You still have another one?
I'll read that for you on tech and social media trends.
Okay.
He's been going on and on about this for
why
a
it's
year.
important. So he's been lobbying for the airport.
He's been lobbying for about a year. And he's also an academic who has lived in Cape Coast all his life.
So if you are living in Cape Coast or Elmina or wherever, send us a message. Do you want an airport or not? How excited are you? How concerned are you? Let's come to the Chronicle.
Now, more from politics. 26 of NPP projects do not exist. This is the NDC. The NPP also says that their manifesto is very feasible. So let me give you the NDC story. The NDC has accused this opponent, the NPP, of presenting non-existent projects as achievements. According to the NDC, of the over 17,000 projects the NPP mentioned last week, about 26 of them have been found to be a figment of one's imagination. Addressing a news conference yesterday, the NDC communications officer Sami Jemfi listed the supposed ghost projects, and he goes on to list them. They've all been mentioned in this particular story. AstroTurf in Adenta, electrification of Ananikrom, Pataban townships in the Ashanti Achim North area. They talk about a 1D1F oil processing factory in West Achim and some other projects.
Well, Gideon Boafo is reacting directly to that. Let me give you that before you continue. Vice President spokesperson Dr. Gideon Boafo is disputing assertions by the NDC that the Akufo-Addo administration is deliberately parading non-existent infrastructure projects as part of its achievements. Now, though the NDC outlines some 26 of these purported ghost projects, Dr. Boafo suggests the flagged projects may be due to what he calls data input errors, quote unquote. Now, the administration had said, for example, that they had initiated 17,334 infrastructure projects in various parts of the country, with 8,746 having been completed, launched a website to track these projects. Now, Mr. Boafo addressed the absence of the AstroTurf projects in Adenta, which the NDC cited. He says, I don't know of an AstroTurf built at Adenta, but I know of an AstroTurf that is being constructed at Medina. So it's possible that whoever was inputting the data wanted to refer to that AstroTurf at Medina. As and when our attention is drawn to the displacement of a particular project for a different community, we just have to rectify, he added. Beyond this, he said the errors will be within a reasonable rate. Then he says if you have 17,000 projects, if 20-something are not there, that's whatever error. You are still on that issue.
Yes. So this is also on the MPP. You know, the NDC has also been saying that the MPP manifesto is a repeat manifesto and it's not feasible. Now, Kojo Ponkoma says that the NPP 2020 manifesto is feasible. And according to him, the NPP as a political party believes that governance is not just about power. So they don't make blanket statements to deceive Ghanaians, and that what is in their manifesto is feasible.
Well, there's also pressure on the NDC to launch its manifesto according to the Daily Guide. The story says that on page 3, after selecting its flag bearer, former President John Dramani Mahama, more than 1 year ago, the NDC appears to be struggling to launch its manifesto. Interestingly, the NDC that appears to have time on this side is still trailing its main opponent.
NDC has time on this side
regarding the itinerary for election 2020. And it looks like there's an August 29 agenda. The story says that recently the NDC said it had set August 29 for the launch of the party's manifesto for the 2020.
Now we are told it's August 31.
And then last one, I lost it. Mahama Okada proposal catches fire.
That's also a big story everywhere.
Yes, by Daniel Bampo. The Okada campaign rhetoric by former President John Mahama as he seeks the support of the disguised unemployed youth has triggered a heated political debate. Many have doubted the sincerity of the NDC flag, but as he flaunts a carrot in front of the youth, most of whom have turned to the commercial motorcycle commuter service in the streets of Accra to earn their living. He flew his Okada campaign last week in the Volta region, and since then, there has been a lot of talk about the quality and sincerity of the proposal.
Let me give you one last political story, then we'll go into business. So in 2012, the Kumasi Declaration was signed by political parties. Remember that particular event?
Yep.
Now, something has also happened in Asawase, which is a hotspot. Asawase NPP and NDC have signed an MOU to commit to peace.
Fantastic.
And this was facilitated by the National Peace Council.
Great.
Now, this is to ensure that during the elections, we don't see any escalation of violence in the Asawase constituency, which over the years has seen that.
Now, government rolls out feeding of JHS final year students. Story on Ghana News Agency. The government on Monday rolled out the one hot meal a day initiative across 17,440 basic schools. 17,000, that sounds like a number of infrastructure projects. 17,440 schools nationwide to enable the students and teachers focus in class as they prepare for BCE. Mrs. Akoto Fremont, Parry Chief of Staff, and Mrs. Cynthia Morrison, Minister for Gender and Children Social Protection, visited some selected schools in Accra to monitor the provision of the hot meals to the students of the final years, to teachers and non-teaching staff. Now, the president initiated the program after reports that some final year students had been going hungry in complying with COVID-19 protocols. Some were just going hungry because they didn't have money. And so this is a good one. Now, the schools visited include Morning Star International and Kanda Cluster. The chief of staff speaking to the media said the program would run till September 18. Oh, madam, please continue. When the students were expected to complete their final year examination. What do you think of this? You know, one of the ways in which we want to attract students to school in deprived communities is food.
Yeah, I told you this the last
So if, for example, in certain communities, you can make one hot meal a day a promise, the time, the whole idea of absenteeism will be reduced very minimally because a lot of parents would be happy to send their kids to school because they know they'll get food to eat. So, Chief of Staff, please, I think you should.
And the hot meal should be linked to planting for food and jobs, local food production.
Fantastic one.
If you check one of the newspapers, that is the Ghanaian Times.
Well, what has Ghanaian Times said? Okay.
Issa is talking to the Minister for
Agric.
Address gaps in PFJ's policy.
Okay.
Now, the story says the government has been urged to urgently address gaps pertaining to the planting for food and jobs policy to make Ghana self-sufficient and a major exporter of food products in the sub-region. A latest study conducted by the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research with funding from the Ministry of Food and Agric into the PFJ indicates that though the program was widely praised by farmers, challenges relating to subsidies on farm inputs, market output, and extension services remained a major setback.
Well, let me tell you, Bernard, there's a strange story on page 3 of the BNFT. As more companies go solar, Energy Ministry worries about ECG's viability. Despite the Energy Ministry's excitement about companies increasingly utilizing renewable energy means to power their businesses, thus going off the national grid, the future sustainability of the Electricity Company of Ghana has been brought under the spotlight as its revenue streams could dry up. The ministry, according to its Director of Renewable and Nuclear Energy Wisdom, Ahiataku Togobo, is therefore contemplating measures that need to be put in place to ensure that a boom in solar and other renewable energy usage would not threaten the viability of the nation's power distributor. Quote, it is not the best for the utility. These companies have battery storage. They generate their own power and store as well as batteries that take care of their voltage ability. According to him, the development is making ECG non-profitable, and that is the biggest challenge that we have. Much as we encourage companies like Specialized, Cowbank and others, don't forget these are the juicy companies that are supporting the residential consumers.
Well, if solar increases, maybe ECG can focus on providing industrial power for the companies that need it.
It's not even just that. There's a policy that we had which would help people to also sell power to the grid if they had their own off-grid solutions. So we need to look at this thing holistically. And our power demand increases by about 10 to 12%. So if people are going on solar, you look at the growth of solar to project your investment in.
So I think the position of the story to make solar look like a threat to ECG, I don't think it's on. I don't think it's on at all. Let's go to Star News. Murder of 64-year-old biochemist, 3 traditional priests caged again. The Kaneshie District Court, presided over by Her Worship Rosemond Dodua Ejiri, has adjourned the case in which 3 traditional priests have been held for the murder of a 64-year-old biochemist, Edward Papafio, to September the 7th this year. This was after the prosecution led by Detective Inspector Lawrence Anani had told the court that investigations were still going on. All three accused persons were present in court while the case was held in chambers. The court, however, renewed their remand warrant into prison custody. Now, the traditional priest allegedly caused the death of a 64-year-old biochemist at Adesu in the Eastern Region. They are Christian Awo Gameli, aka Power 1, 40, Famous Adukonu, aka Scorpion, 37, and Yao Azamate, 27. They are being held on the charges of conspiracy to commit crime, to wit murder and murder. They have had their pleas preserved when they appeared before the court presided over by Her Worship Rosamond Dodu Ejiri. All right, Kojo, let's talk a few more things before we go into the business news.
Mop-up exercise. We are being told that it started very slowly in Greater Accra.
Oh, I have to go and do my own. No?
Yes, we all have to.
I don't have an NIA card.
Abigail,
do you have one?
We must go together.
Yeah, I'll have to go.
Yes. Abigail Ano writes that the National Identification Authority mop-up exercise for the registration of the Ghana card in the Greater Accra region recorded a slow start yesterday.
Okay.
A visit to some registration centers in the capital revealed virtually empty seats.
Really?
With few registrants undertaking the exercise, rather allowing for a smooth observance of COVID-19 safety protocols. The exercise expected to run until September 8 is to allow for citizens 15 years and above who are unable to register in the initial phases of the exercise across the country to do so.
And Bernard, let me also read this. I've been following this story for some time now. On page 2, we've been complaining about the depletion of our fish stock. Recalcitrant Chinese-owned trawler relicensed despite committing same illegal fishing offenses twice and failing to pay fine. And we've reported this story every single time this particular ship has been fined. A Chinese-owned fishing trawler has been relicensed to fish in Ghana despite being caught for illegal fishing twice and failing to pay its fine. In June 2019, the Lurong Yuan Yu was apprehended in Ghanaian waters with illegal nets and undersized small pelagic fish on board, the staple catch of artisanal fishers. The full fine of $1 million was issued, but the vessel owners failed to pay. In May 2020, the vessel was caught again for an almost identical offense. Despite this clear track record of illegality, the vessel has now been licensed to fish while it awaits further hearing.
Ghana.
Now, on from the vessels, we go to spare parts.
If you take your eye off the news now, somebody will do something.
Bernard,
Spare parts.
spare parts dealers say they are going to embark on a series of demonstrations.
Why?
To kick against the ban on the importation of salvage cars. You know the Customs Amendment Act is effective 1st November this year. And the Act prohibits the importation of salvage vehicles and is providing incentives for the automotive manufacturers registered under the Ghana Automotive Manufacturers Program. But the artisans, clearing agents, spare parts dealers in Tema, Spintex and Ashaiman have served notice that if this is not withdrawn, they'll hit the streets.
Well, the same protection given to the automotive industry, we should give it to those who also produce local chicken and rice and things, so that they too will use their products here against importers. That's the issue. So let's move on. Thank you, gentlemen. That was the newspaper review. Coming up next is the Citi Business News.